Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be going over the creation of my high school capstone project. This project is a game called Gargeban. I picked this name because it sounds like the name of another app, but a bootleg version trying to avoid copyright. The premise of the game is to hit arrows and get a good enough score to not get Gargeban. Here's some gameplay. Pretty neat, right? You can check out my game in the description of this video. Now how did I make this game? Well, I broke my workload into small steps. To begin, I searched the interwebs for a program I could use to make music. I stumbled upon a site called BandLab. Spending a few hours getting the hang of it, I came up with the pieces that you hear in my game. Here's Windows theme. The next step that I took was the art piece. Since art isn't my strong suit, I scoured the web for clip art. Then, I cropped and edited the images that I liked using a browser app called Pixlr. I made most of my sprites like so. Now that I had the two main components for creating my game, I was able to get into the code. The entire game was coded in Unity with C#. I started by making the title screen, then the music player. This is where I ran into a problem. I had no idea how to play music in Unity, so I went and watched a video made by Brackeys, another YouTuber. He taught me most of what I needed to know for playing music in Unity. Now that I was done my title screen and music player, I created another scene to somewhat introduce the user to the game and give some context. This was pretty easy and straightforward. On to the third scene. This is where things got more difficult. I had to create the entirety of the game's mechanics from scratch. For this, I had made two main scripts for handling the mechanics, the spawner script and the arrow script. I put the spawner script on an empty game object outside the camera view, and the arrow script on the arrow itself. On the arrow script, it determines the orientation of the arrow, which is completely randomized. I like to put weird affixes on my variables because I can. In its update function, it is told to move left at a constant rate regardless of your frame rate. The first if statement checks if the arrow has gone off screen, and when it does, it tells the score manager that the player missed an arrow and deducts 10 points. The arrow is then destroyed. These next if statements check that the arrow is within range of the arrow frame and assigns the numbo variable with the corresponding key that you pressed. This information is then sent to a function called tabular, which checks if the key that you pressed matches the orientation of the arrow, and sends info to the scorekeeper script depending on how accurately the player hit the note. If you did a bad job of hitting the note, it tells you that you did poo-poo, which is a euphemism for shit. On to the next main script, the spawner. For this, I had to spawn the arrows at the exact right time to sync with the song. The tempo of Windows theme is 132 beats per minute, so I assigned the beat tempo variable with that number. This number becomes the dividend of 60 as there are 60 seconds in a minute. Next, I created a coroutine with a for loop to go through each integer in the arrow array. If the number in the array is 0, it is treated like a quarter rest by waiting one beat. If it is 1, it is treated like an eighth rest. If it is 2, it is treated like a quarter note by spawning an arrow, then waiting one beat. And if it is 3, it is treated like an eighth note. I then had to manually insert the correct timing of each note by inputting one of those 4 integers. This may not be the most efficient way to do this, but I was determined on using the system. Once I finished mapping the notes, the game was finally done. Making this game was a great experience for me. Not only did I have fun, but I learned some extremely useful things on how to code. I learned how to use coroutines, play music in Unity, how awake functions are very useful when I switch scenes, got better at referencing other game objects, scripts, and whatnot, and plenty more. If I were to do this project again, I would create a developer's console to easily map notes, and find a different way to time the notes correctly, as the coroutines wait for seconds kept on dragging, where every couple of measures, it would be off sync by about an eighth of a beat. I would have tried to find a fix for this, but I was in too deep and I realized. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment below.